Lesson 90, the atrium.
So we've moved on to another important part of the Roman house that's something that is pretty unique to their culture. So as you can see, we have a diagram here indicating that the central area of the cutout is the atrium. And we still use the word atrium today, but it doesn't mean quite the same thing. Bill, why don't you talk a little bit about what an atrium is today, and then I'll come back to the Roman house and explain for our listeners what it was in Roman times.
Well, in modern architectural terminology, if you walk into a building and the building has a tall, large area with a raised roof, in a large city, you might walk into a building and possibly the initial entry room would have a ceiling that goes all the way to the top. It'll just have a really tall space there. That kind of tall entry room in architectural parlance is called an atrium.
Right. And it comes from this ancient Roman practice of having an entrance area, but rather than it just being a tall room like we do today, maybe with a sunroof, the ancient Romans actually cut a literal funnel-shaped hole into their ceiling. And this was called a compluvium. And what this did was allow rain to flow down into the pool in the floor called an impluvium. And this was really very important in ancient Roman times because, as we mentioned when we talked a little bit about the baths in an earlier lesson, the Romans didn't have running water. And so this saved people all kinds of time going to gather water. Some of these impluvia, if we use the neuter plural, even had a pipe connection to a large cistern or a tank that they could hold water separate from the impluvium or the impluvium itself.
So let's talk about the words here a minute. We have the word compluvium and the word impluvium, and the pluv part of that word, or those words, is related to the word for rain. Because if you want to tell someone that it's raining, you would say, look to your friend and say, pluit, P-L-U-I-T, pluit, it is raining.
That's right. And so the com part of compluvium is a prefix, con, which comes from the Latin preposition cum, which means with.
Which you already know, by the way.
Right. And so the compluvium is the part of the house with the rain in it.
So the idea here is rain being brought together. Com, that prefix, as Michael just mentioned, that prefix, when it's prefixed to another word, can mean together or with. So the idea is rain coming together. And so that's the funnel-shaped roof hole. And then we have the impluvium. Again, there's that root word there that means rain, but this time with im. Why is it im, Michael?
Well, when you make an N sound and a P sound together, it often transforms into an M because they're so similar. So, in fact, originally this could have been an impluvium, and we all know that that is a preposition in both English and Latin, and so it, as you say it quickly, it becomes impluvium. In fact, I have a really hard time trying to say impluvium. I have to try very, very hard. So it was very, very natural to just say impluvium.
Yes, it's much easier to say impluvium because after you say the M sound, your lips are together and ready to say the P sound, P.
Exactly.
So as you know, the preposition in can mean into when it takes the accusative case. So the idea here is rain going into something. So that's why it's impluvium.
Because an atrium doesn't quite match what happens in the front room of most of our houses today, the word we're going to use for living room will be a different word from atrium. It will be an exedrium. And now, this is another one of those Greek words, right, Bill?
Yes, the word hedra in Greek means chair. And we have a couple of related English words that have that same word, that hedra word from ancient Greek, like the word cathedral. If you look in the middle of the word cathedral, you'll notice that there's H-E-D-R in the middle. And that's the remnant of that Greek word hedra, which means chair. And that's also present in the noun exedrium. The EDRI part of the word comes from the word hedera as well, but it's been kind of Latinized, I suppose.
That's right.
So there are many words in Latin that could possibly refer to a sitting area. Based on my research, this was the best one. But if your house does have a large entry room, I don't see a reason why you couldn't call it an atrium. Could you, Michael?
No. In fact, it might even be a better word for it. Some of those atria don't have any chairs.
So just use your own best judgment when you're figuring out what words to call the various rooms of your home. And that's the whole point of what we're doing here. We're trying to get you familiarized with the layout of a Roman home so that you have some kind of knowledge base to draw on when you figure out what to call the different rooms of your house or apartment or wherever you live.